In Southern California, a small number of convicted criminals have the choice of ditching regular jail and opting for an upgrade. The Marshall Project, which covers the U.S. justice system, worked with the Los Angeles Times to investigate pay-to-stay jails. They uncovered a list of alarming cases where rich felons were able to score better digs. I want to say that slowly because it's just sort of outrageous. Alysia Santo of the Marshall Project is with me now to talk about this joint investigation. Pay to stay. Break this down for us. How does this work?
So you're convicted of a crime, or say you're facing some charges, and the way that this typically works is your defense attorney and the prosecutor and the judge, you come to a plea agreement that would include that you are going to be allowed to serve your time in a pay-to-stay jail versus the Orange or LA County Jail.
Okay.
So it's ultimately up to a judge. And we were told that it's not taken lightly. There's people that are denied the ability to do pay to stay. But what we did find is that there were a lot of people that participated in these programs, over 3,500, that we could identify in a 5-year period. And the vast majority did it for DUI convictions. That made up 67% of the people who participated. 13% were driving violations. Right. But we did find a small subsection, about 4.5% of people who were convicted of crimes that included violence, threats of violence, or sex crimes.
So first off, how much are they paying typically, and what are they paying for? How is their stay different than what they would have gotten?
Yeah, so the most expensive is $251. The cheapest one we found was $25
That's
per
a
night.
night.
Yes,
okay.
Per night. But it's typically between about $100 and $150 a night. And what we found is that people are basically buying their own safety in a lot of ways, because the Orange and LA County jails are kind of notoriously dangerous places. Mm-hmm. And I don't think anybody can blame a lot of the people for why they would purchase their time to do it in a different way.
Yeah, we've got a couple images up on our screen right now, and you can sort of see the difference. It looks like two sort of dormitories, one clearly a lot neater, fewer people there versus the other one. And so these pay-to-stay jails, they're separate facilities, but these are facilities that have already been built. They're being used as regular jails in what, smaller municipalities or something?
So they're city jails. There's a variety of city jails all over this area of California, and they're mostly empty. They might be holding a few people pre-trial, and so a lot of the cities see this as a revenue source, and a lot of people feel it's positive because it saves tax money. You're not paying for the person's incarceration; they're paying for it themselves.
Right. So I get convicted of something, and as part of the plea deal, I say I'll pay $100 a night. Mm-hmm. Please don't send me to this more violent facility. Send me to this safer place that they've got empty rooms. So I can see what could be positive about that. But the big negative is it doesn't sound very fair. If you don't have the money, then that's not an option you can take advantage of.
I think that's the question it really raises, is that it's not so much that people can, obviously the point of the story is that people can pay for a better jail stay. But it raises the question of, why do we send people who don't have money into dangerous and often very dirty situations where they might be physically assaulted, they might get very ill. Right. The healthcare is notoriously bad. So I think that's something to think about. It's that only if you have the money could you be allowed to do this. And that obviously, money plays so many roles in our criminal justice system. Can you afford an attorney? Can you bail yourself out?
Yeah.
This is just a really explicit example of the role that money can play.
You also spoke to victims, though. Mm-hmm. The victims, how do they feel when they hear that the perpetrator of a crime that may have hurt them, they may have been damaged, kind of was able to pay for, a more comfortable punishment, if you will?
Yeah, one of the things during the reporting was that I actually was the first person telling that person that, or they didn't realize that
Wow.
the person had done their jail stay in that way. So, no, they weren't happy about that. They felt that the person should have gone to a type of jail that they imagined. There was one example in the story in particular of a guy who actually spent a lot of time in jail and prison in his younger years, and he was stabbed by someone, and that person did a pay-to-stay, and he was just kind of remarking that, I never even knew that existed. That's not something I would have never been able to do because I didn't have the money to even afford an attorney for myself. So that was a really kind of stark example, because it was someone who had experience and then became a victim of a crime. and that person did their time and paid to stay.
Yeah, Alysia Santos, great reporting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.